Hello and welcome back, everybody. I have my arrow drawing open and I'm going to be using today's lesson to show you how to complete the dimensioning for it. Now this dimensioning is going to work a little different than what we've seen in the shape drawing and the W drawing, and you're going to see why that is in a few moments. So I've ended up downloading the arrow image from the hub already in my previous video which you've seen, so I already have it open up on my computer, and we're not going to be able to run angular dimensions as seen here like we did in the W drawing, where we just selected two lines and then naturally pulled them, because this drawing, the arrow, it's an old drawing. It's from a drafting handbook, and it was meant to be drawn by hand on paper with drafting equipment such as T-squares and set squares and equipment that you're not familiar with for the purposes of AutoCAD. So what I'm going to do first is start with the easy ones, the dimensions that we know how to do fairly well by this point, which are the linear dimensions, and then later I'll work on the angular dimensions. Now I'm actually going to be cleaning this up a bit. I don't like it that these dimension extension lines are sticking out so much longer than the dimension arrowhead leader on several of these. So I'm actually going to be improving that on my lesson, and I'm going to ask that you make the same improvements to your drawing. Okay, so I'm going to get started. I'm not going to be referring to this image regularly through my lesson. I've just activated this on my iPad next to my monitor, and I'm going to be using that as a reference. So I'm going to be clicking back into AutoCAD, and ortho was on. I'm going to start by running some linear dimensions. So I'm going to go up to annotation, make sure I'm selecting linear, and I'm going to begin by clicking the center line endpoint and the endpoint of the arrow. I'm going to zoom in with my wheel mouse and drop this dimension to this endpoint right here, and then select it, pull it at its value, and I'm going out 12 millimeters or 10 millimeters. Think about that for a moment. If you thought 12, you're correct. So type in 12, enter. That's going to pull that dimension out where we need it. Next, we have a linear dimension of the overall height. So I can just right-click my mouse and left-click Repeat Dim Linear instead of going up to the toolbar to get it. So I'll select this endpoint and this endpoint, zoom in, and I'm going to snap these arrow leaders to the same endpoint. After I snap the dimension, it automatically exits me from the command. Then I can go back, select the 120 with a grip, select it at the node, pull it off to the left, and now we're going to place this dimension 12 millimeters or 10 millimeters from the previous one. Yes, 10. Perfect. First dimension is always 12 millimeters away. The second would be 10 from the first. The third would be 10 from the second, and so on. We always just want to give a little extra room on that first dimension. Okay. Next up, we have the overall. So right click, left click, repeat dim linear, endpoint snap to this endpoint snap, come down. I can snap it right to the tip of that arrow because they're directly, it's the same height at the back, and I can just select that 190 and come down 12. And I have one more dimension like this. So right click, left click, repeat dim linear, endpoint to intersection snap, drop it to that endpoint, select the value, and then pull up and type in 12. And that is the end of the linear dimensions. Now I'm going to start with some angular ones, and I'm going to show you why we have to do a couple of more extra steps. Basically, if I go up to annotation, hit the drop down arrow and select left click angular dimension, which is what we're going to do, I have to run a dimension of 75 degrees, as seen here. But when I pick this line and this line, it runs the dimension as 60 degrees, which is not what I want. So I actually have to create a dimension extension line manually. So I'm going to right click, left click cancel, because I don't want that dimension. So this is what you have to do, and it's fairly simple. Go up to your draw tools, grab your line, left click, find the endpoint snap, and draw a line. And it doesn't really matter how long it is. I'm not going to key in a distance, just draw a line, right click, left click, enter to escape. Zoom into here, the bottom, right click, left click, repeat line, left click on the endpoint, and draw another line here. Again, we don't care how long these lines are. As long as they are there. And what do we have left? We have one here. Zoom in, and we have one here. So be careful, because when you see a snap illuminate, it means it's going to want to snap to that point. So we can make the line long, but just, bring it up until that snap doesn't illuminate, and then you're not going to have to worry about snapping the line to somewhere here on this 15-degree angle. All right, now that we've done that, we're ready to actually run some angular dimensions. So I can now go back up to annotation, left click angular, zoom in, select this line, and select this line. And it's going to make that 75 degrees. So we want to try, we can't actually run angular dimensions as precisely as the linear dimensions, where we snap them, 12 millimeters away, 10 millimeters away. What we're going to be doing is just dropping the dimension where it looks good, and something that is basically the same as what we're seeing on the iPad image PDF of the arrow. So I'm just going to, eyeball this and just drop it around here, and that's going to be good enough. And I'm not going to move it again. I'm going to zoom in to the bottom, right click, left click, repeat dim angular, and I'm going to select this vertical line and this angular line, and I'm going to pull up a 15 degrees. Again, if I pull it down, it puts the arrows on the inside and it keeps the value on the right. If I slide my mouse up, it keeps the value on the inside and the arrows on the outside. And this is the way it looks on the iPad image that I'm looking at, that you would be referencing as well. So once I see that preview, I'll drop it somewhere along, anywhere, as long as these arrows are on the outside and the value is on the inside. Right click, left click, repeat dim angular. We're going to select this angular line and this extension line, and it's the same thing. The arrows have to go on the outside and the value is on the inside. So once we see that, we'll just drop it around here, and that's good. We got about 2 left to do. Right click, left click, repeat dim angular. Select the 45 degree line and the extension line I've created. And in this case, the value and the arrows are totally between the extension line and the angular line. So I'll just, once it looks something similar to what we see on our screen, I'll just drop it and I'm done. One more left. Right click, left click, dim angular. This one's a little tight. So let's select this line and this line, and we're gonna, now it shows on the iPad screen that I'm looking at that the value is on the inside and the arrows are on the outside, but I keep sliding this and I can't get that preview. So we have to do a little something extra here. So we're gonna drop it when we don't see, if I see a snap, it's gonna want to snap to that point. So just zoom in on it a little more, and right around here is good. All right, so what we're gonna do is, we're not in a command, as you know, when we use grips. So we're just gonna select it, grab it at the node, and we're gonna pull it in. And we can use the midpoint snap to help us. Just like that. Now it's on the inside. And there are our dimensions. Now, as you know, dimensions all have to go on the dimension layer. So I'm going to be selecting them all. So I'm going to be, I can draw a box around these items if I want to select more at once. If I draw the box from top right to bottom left, I can grab multiple things at once. So if I want to grab that extension line and that dimension value, I'll grab two things at once here, two things at once. And I just keep panning around. I keep pushing my wheel mouse in, and you see that hand pop up. I'm always zooming in and out and panning around, right? Get into the habit of doing that. And then just let go when you're ready to select more items. Here, I'll do 3 on this go. Okay. So now I pan back to the middle. I go up to my layer drop-down manager, and I select dimensions from the list. And it will turn them all into dimensions, as we're used to seeing. You can hit escape once they're selected. Now, what do you notice about the linear dimensions that I ran first versus the angular dimensions I ran second? Look at the dimension extension line that was created with that linear dimension. It doesn't touch the arrow. None of them do. None of the linear dimension extension lines are touching the arrow because I programmed that in the dimension style settings to leave a 2 millimeter gap. And I've mentioned this before in the shape drawing. On these angular dimensions, I basically cheated and created them using a line command. So they're not really dimension extension lines. They just look like they are. So I have to do a manual edit on these. I have to actually use a grip and pull them back from the arrow 2 millimeters to match what we see here. So these are some of the extra steps that we have to do. So we're going to select that line, select it at the node of the grip, pull it away, and type in 2, enter. And that's going to give us the spacing that we need. And we'll just go around and do that to all these extension lines. 2, select this one, come back, 2. Just keep panning around the drawing. Zoom in. Okay, and that should be all of them. Hit escape to end. Now, the last thing we're going to do with this dimensioning of this drawing is these dimension extension lines are now way too long. Again, what do you notice about the linear dimensions I ran? It's the same thing. The dimension extension line only runs automatically 2 millimeters beyond the arrowhead. So we need to do the same thing here. It's going to be very simple to do. And you're going to notice that on this drawing that I'm referencing on my iPad, it looks the same as what I'm showing right now. And I want to improve this. I want to clean this up, right? I want to make this better than it is. And you're going to do the same on your drawing. So we're clicking back. I'm going to select this line again, grab it at the node, and edit it back to that intersection. And then grab it again, and now come over to the right 2 millimeters. And now that's going to look the same as what we're seeing naturally on the linear dimensions. It looks much better this way. So here's this one. We're going to pull it down to the end point at the arrow, and then pull up, type 2, enter. Let's do this one. It's very simple. It's just a little more work. It's good to have a bag of tricks. Now this one looks very similar, but we're going to do this one anyway. Just to make sure. Come down 2. Alright, so it ended up being a little shorter than what it originally was. Okay. Alright, and remember, my cursor looks clunky when I'm trying to end end my grip editing because I can't hit escape on my keyboard because of my video recording. But that should complete the dimensioning for the arrow drawing. I'm just going to reference my iPad, make sure I haven't missed anything. I'm happy with the improvements. It looks great. So we have one last thing to do. We have to edit our title block. So this is going to be, again, a review of title block creation. We're going to, while not in the command, we're going to double click the X. And we're going to make sure caps lock is turned on, and we're going to type the drawing title, arrow. Pan over to drawn by. I'm drawing this one, so it's my first initial, period, space, last name, date. At the time I record this video, it is the 2nd month of the year. It is the 25th day, and it is the 21st year. Always goes month, day, year. Scale. All these drawings are a scale of a ratio of 1 to 1. And the drawing number, the last 3 digits of our course code, 101-03, because this is our 3rd drawing. The only thing I like to edit here is, again, my name. I could get it a little bit better centered. So I'll select it, and I can come up to modify and use the move tool. Left click it, and I'm just going to bring it over to the right a bit more just to kind of eyeball that a little better. And the 1-to-1 scale, so I can right click, left click, repeat move, select it, right click to activate the command, and I'm just going to make sure I'm moving this over. Now always make sure when you're moving these title block information that you have ortho turned on. If you turn ortho off, you're going to be able to move them up and down. That's not what you want. You only want to be able to move them horizontally, because you want to keep all the text, the title block text, that's what I was trying to say earlier, you want it to be all in line with one another. But that would complete the arrow drawing fully. And then the last thing I have to do is hit save. It shows in the command line I did a quick save, and the work is saved in my AutoCAD drawing folder, and I'm done. So at this point, I'm ready to submit this drawing to the assignment folder. Now this drawing concludes the single view drawing set in our course. Time we meet for a lesson, we're going to be taking a look at orthographic drawing for AutoCAD. So watch for that lesson. It's coming up shortly. And take care for now. And good luck with this drawing, and I will talk to you later.